Hello everyone, Storm11 here. Today you'll be tracking for the chance of severe weather to be going on for the next couple of days across parts of the northern plains, which have been going on today, and then eventually tomorrow into Saturday. We got to watch for parts of the Ozarks, parts of the Midwest, even into parts of the Laurel Hall Valley. Make it to see multiple cluster thunderstorms roll through a couple of those areas as well. So I was going to get started with the what's going on right now. And of course, you can see what's going on in the west and east. Out in the west, we got a lot of stuff going on out there. Excessive heat warnings, red flag warnings, a lot of stuff going on out there. Unfortunately, the heat dome is coming back across the west, which does bring in some very hot conditions over there, which is not good. But it does continue. What this is doing is bringing in more stormier conditions across parts of the eastern United States. Down across parts of southeastern Texas, they've been it's been a little bit rough down there, where they've been seeing a lot of rain. We actually had a couple of flash flood emergencies that have been going on down there, so they've been getting a lot of rain. I believe there's a moderate risk down there today, maybe into tomorrow. So flooding is likely to be continuing across parts of the southeastern Texas over the next couple of days, unfortunately. You guys are expecting more rain. Another thing to note here is Tropical Storm Elsa. These are all tropical storm warnings. It's actually able to make it through land as a tropical storm for most of the time here. Actually, all the time here. It's made it for the Carolinas as a tropical storm. It's right now about right here. That's going to be kind of skimming along the coastline here. That could bring in heavy rain, gusty winds, and even a couple tornadoes kind of along the east coast, which we do have a couple tornado warnings in eastern North Carolina right now. You also do have a severe thunderstorm watch going on across parts of the Northeast as well, which includes places like Philadelphia, Hartford, New York City, and even got a flash flood watch on top of that as well. Let's take a look at that severe thunderstorm watch in a little bit more detail. You can see here it includes places like Philadelphia, Allenton, New York City, Hartford, and also Kingston as well, and some other places. A couple tornadoes are possible. We actually have a couple rotating storms there right now, and there's also a chance for some ping pong sized hail, and even scattered wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour is also possible in those places there as well. Let's check out the SPC outlook here for the rest of today. The enhanced risk for severe weather across parts of western North Dakota, far northwestern South Dakota, and far northeastern Montana. Where's the primary threat is going to be damage to winds. The tornado threat's also there as well. Damage to winds will be there, but really the hail is looking to be the biggest threat for right now up there. But there will be that chance for damage to winds. Then you got the slight risk for severe weather across parts of the northwestern Kentucky, southern Indiana, and southwestern Ohio. The primary threat is going to be damage to winds for those storms. And then you got the slight risk up across parts of the northeast where we have that severe thunderstorm watch. All hazards are possible. Then you got this large slight risk in northeastern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia, and far southern Maryland and Delaware, which the primary threats are going to be tornadoes from Tropical Storm Elsa, which will be continuing to move the northeast over the next couple of days. Moving on to day two, which is tomorrow, we got an enhanced risk for severe weather across northeastern Missouri, southern Iowa, and west central Illinois. Then we got the slight risk for most of Nebraska, northeastern Kansas, far southwestern South Dakota, even for parts of northeastern Missouri, southern parts of Illinois, even for areas across parts of central and southern Iowa as well. And you also got a marginal risk for parts of the northeastern United States as well. Again, that's for the tornado threat for Tropical Storm Elsa. And there'll be that chance for damaging winds as well. Got a 5% chance of tornadoes for northeastern Missouri, southern Iowa, and west central Illinois. I believe they did mention that there might be a chance for a 10% hatched area up there, which is what I'm saying is there could be a chance for some strong tornadoes possibly up there, but it kind of depends on if we could get any supercells to blow up there. That's kind of one of the big questions. Damage and winds will definitely be there. That hatch area means a significant risk. There could be some wind gusts that might even exceed 75 miles per hour in some places. And there's also that chance for hail. You even got that 30% chance for northeastern Missouri and southern Iowa. And then also that hatch area means there is a chance for 2 inches in diameter or larger. Or you could say very large hail seems to be a possibility. We also got to watch back across Nebraska. There could be some big storms out there as well. Let's actually move on to day 3, uh, which is, I believe, Saturday. You got that marching risk for a good chunk of Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas, southern half of Missouri, northwestern Arkansas, and into parts of southern Illinois. Don't be surprised if this changes around by quite a bit, and even a slight risk will likely be added for day 3 on its next update. So I'm going to show you guys why. But let's go and get started with today. We're going to look into the highest name, which has probably done the best so far this year, but it still ain't great either at the same time, to be honest. But it's the best one out of the rest for right now. But you can see here, there is a couple, does show a couple supercells that may try to pop up across parts of western South Dakota into parts of northwestern Nebraska. Eventually, you're going to see development in northeastern Montana and western North Dakota as well. You can see, bam, you got some big storms that blow up. That might bring a threat of very large hail, even damaging winds, and even for the chance for some isolated tornadoes. That may continuing to move to the southeast, kind of dies down a little bit, but still that little cluster of thunderstorms start to move down into Iowa and southern Minnesota on the next day, which is tomorrow as well. But let's kind of check out the ingredients here. We'll take a look at a couple forecast soundings here, see what they show here. It'll probably take a minute to load here with the sounding. Okay, there you go. That doesn't look to be correct, actually. For some reason, sometimes whenever I put down a sounding or click a sounding, it takes me somewhere else. It's done that a couple times before. It's actually done to me earlier today, so I'm not sure why. We're going to try that again because I don't think that is correct. I guess it is then. A little bit odd. We'll go further to the northwest. But let's just take a look to the sounding real quick. I honestly don't think this is correct, but we'll take a look at it anyways. But you can see, well, actually, this is not even correct at all. Just looking at the dew point. Dang, what is going on? We're on the wrong time frame? What's going on? Let's move a little further to these. Better luck this time. Those are not correct, I'll tell you that much. Or at least I don't think. That's like logo warning for like wildfires. That's what that kind of means. Okay, I think this is a little bit better. That's what I want here. But you can see here, there's not a whole lot of, well, there is plenty of Kate to work with, close to 2,000 joules per kilogram. You also notice here, there's also a little bit of dry air. The dew point numbers are not that high, upper 50s, but that's still favorable for some, at least some thunderstorm activity. But I'd rather have low 60s than upper 50s, but that's close to the 60 dew point mark. But you also notice here is a strong low lap rates. That's definitely going to be favorable for damage to winds. You also got a pretty decent elevated mix layer, so that's going to help with the lift of the storms. Pretty small hodograph there, though. Not really a favorable sounding for tornadoes. Not a whole lot of wind shear out there. Although your 3K number is 53, that'll be favorable. But also your downdraft cape is 55, so this sounding will be favorable for potentially very large hail, and even for damage to winds, just by looking at sounding here. But it's definitely a little bit interesting right there. So really the primary threats for western North Dakota, far northeastern Montana, and even to parts of South Dakota Pretty much the primary threats would be damaging winds, potentially for some very large hail, and there could be some isolated tornadoes. It's a possibility. I don't think I'm not getting some of these soundings right, but an isolated tornado does seem possible as well. But let's kind of move a little further to the southeast, kind of moving on to the next day here. So you can see these cluster thunderstorms continuing to move to the southeast here. These are still going by these upper level winds here. These upper level winds at like right around 500 millibars. That's keeping the storms going. That's how they are still going because they create lift, and there's a decent amount of cape out ahead of these storms. So these storms will likely continue at least for most of the day on Friday. They might die out briefly, but there will likely be new development back behind those storms there. And these will eventually continue to move to the southeast. Yeah, as you can see there, it goes through parts of northern Illinois there. That could be a Mexico convective system right there, or an MCS. And it also shows a cluster of thunderstorms forming out here. Now, I'll warn you guys that models do not handle Mexico convective systems that well. I'll tell you that right now. Pretty much most models are terrible at it, even in the short range. Doesn't do that good. So I'll take these reflectivities as a grain of salt. But kind of one of the main things you want to look at is the upper level winds, how much stability is out there, and of course there are some other things as well. But those are kind of a couple of the main things out there. Yeah, you can also see here, it shows a pretty decent cluster of thunderstorms moving through parts of Indiana Saturday morning here. And then we got to watch for possibly a new MCS that could develop here, a new cluster of thunderstorms form up here, and another cluster of thunderstorms form right there. So Saturday could be a day where there could be multiple clusters of storms, which is my main concern here. And all these storms have the chance to produce some, well, at least most of them have the chance to produce some hail, damaged winds, and maybe even some isolated tornadoes as well. So definitely we need to monitor pretty closely here. So if we get a sounding up in central Iowa Friday, excuse me, you can see here, talk about a strong cap. This is kind of a big concern here for storm development. This is where we have inserities here. It's this cap right here. Some models do show a pretty decent cap, some others not so much. But you also notice here is there is a lot of wind shear to work with. Got a large hodograph up here. Downdraft cape is pretty high as well. There's a decent amount of cape out there. So with that cap there, storms are not going to form, just to put it that way. But if the cap wasn't here, this would be a favorable sounding here for some large hail, damaging winds, even for some tornadoes as well. Some of those could be strong as well. But with the cap there, the severe weather threat will be staying pretty limited if that sounding's going to be correct. You do see here with those upper level winds, some of those updrafts might be able to push through that cap there. So we're going to see how strong those 500 millibar winds would be, because that's kind of one of the ingredients here for lift is your upper level winds. And that's what we need to watch for, is those upper level winds. And that's kind of how these storms, again, continue on throughout the night. And typically over to the overnight hours, that's where streaming winds are at its strongest. So that's definitely something we need to watch for as well. And then you kind of move on into uh, pretty much during the day on Saturday, get news source of 4 back into Missouri. We'll get a couple soundings out there as well and see what it shows here sounding wise. We'll also look into the HER model as well in a moment. And as you can see here, it's not a bad sounding either. This won't really be favorable for tornadoes, given that the wind shear is pretty low. But there's a little bit of an elevated mix layer going on out here. What I mean by the elevated mix layer is right here. Whether your green line or the dew point line kind of goes away from the red line, which is your temperature line. That's where some a little bit of dry air is in, and that can help bring some lift into some of these storms. And you also get some large hail when it happens there. You can also see at the surface, similar way at the surface, that could be some damaging winds there as well. And it seems like it is a decent environment for damaging winds, but it's a pretty decent environment as well for hail. So I would just say this sounding would be favorable for damaging winds and hail. Just by looking at the sounding here. Tornado threat looks to be very low, just given the fact there is a low amount of wind shear. Just by looking at this sounding as well. I'm sure I can find better soundings out there, but that's just kind of like the general sounding there. But let's kind of look into the HER model here. And it shows a little bit of a different story here. And pretty much all these models here are showing different stories here. And if we kind of move it to kind of parts of Friday here, you kind of see that Mexico convective system like I was talking about. That'll be going on up there later today. It's eventually going to move into parts of Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois. You can see how different this is already. Then it starts to form a big cluster of thunderstorms across parts of eastern Missouri and southern Illinois. You're going to see this continue to move to the southeast across into parts of southern Indiana and western Kentucky. Here, and it could be a nasty cluster of thunderstorms if that's correct. I mean, look at this. This is into the early morning hours on Saturday. You're talking about pretty good Boeing segmented storms right there, moving through parts of southwestern Kentucky, southwestern Indiana, and southern Illinois. But I'll take that as a grain of salt for right now. But it also shows a pretty good cluster of thunderstorms that form just behind that too. He even tries to show some new development off to the east of that storm cluster to parts of Kentucky and even to parts of Tennessee as well. Whenever that Boeing segment starts to die out a little bit. And that's about as far out it can go there as well. So, and pretty much it's a similar way for some of the other models. They show a different story with these cluster thunderstorms, which is going to make forecasting a little bit difficult. But like I said earlier in the video, models do not handle these type of setups that well with thunderstorm clusters. We'll probably likely have a better idea until we actually get to the event. Even at 24 hours away from the event, uh, models still don't handle it that good. But like I said, with those upper level winds, that's going to help with the lift. That kind of indicates of how long these storms could go on for. I mean, despite of some of the capping there, sometimes some of these winds could be strong enough that these updrafts could actually blow through that cap. It's a possibility that that could possibly happen. But just checking out the HER model here, you do have some pretty decent upper level winds here. Usually probably at 35 knots and kind of above that. That'd be some pretty decent 500 millibar winds there. But really, approaching 45 knots to 50 knots is probably something you will want for some severe weather as well. And that's going to help provide some lift into some of these storms. And you can kind of see here how it kind of processes here. Where you actually have development of the storms, that's where some of your strongest winds of 500 millibars, that's where they are. So that's hour 44, or at 8Z on Saturday. So if we kind of get to that time frame, you can kind of see here, you got an area of stronger 500 millibar winds across several Illinois. If you go back to reflectivity, yeah, you actually got some storms out there. So this is kind of one of the key factors to some of these thunderstorm clusters is those 500 millibar winds that could create some lift. Or you could say Mexico convective systems. Works either way. So these 500 millibar winds are going to be kind of one of these key factors into some of these severe weather setups. And there could be multiple of them as well. So that's something we need to pay attention to as well. You can see how that kind of moves into parts of Kentucky as well, where more development is possible out there as well. We could check out the NAM here as well. Again, with that MCS that moves through parts of Iowa here, you got stronger 500 millibar winds, and that's where some of those storms will likely form. That's where you get that lift. And then it kind of fades away pretty quickly into the overnight hours, but honestly has some doubts on that. But there is still some remains of it in some places as well, even some back across parts of Nebraska and Kansas. That's where we have the cyclists back off that way as well, which we need to watch for those cluster of storms as well. And those will move quickly to the southeast. And as you move to Saturday here, you got some pretty good upper level winds across parts of northeastern Kansas and northern Missouri. And that's where some of the storms will form next on Saturday. And even some of these winds out here won't be that bad for lift either. If we kind of check this out here, yeah, 48 knots. Yeah, 40 to 48 knots is favorable for some lift from some of these storms as well. So that ain't terrible. But some lift could happen here. So not only back here you need to watch for some cluster storms, but you also need to watch over across parts of the Ohio Valley as well. And then when you look into the high-res dam, you kind of see here again where some of those storms form, which you can actually tell by looking at this here, where you kind of have this hole here, which it might be hard to see here, but when you kind of have these holes there, let me get a different color here. When it kind of goes for like the colors, goes from like from pink to like nothing. Those are actually storms. Within these white spots, those are storms. That's where they are. And you can see where they form in is some of these um, stronger upper level winds, which is going to create some lift. Let's get a little further south here. And you can see there, yeah. Yeah, this is the highest dam here in southern Iowa here for, I believe this is Friday evening here. Yeah, pretty favorable environment here. Any supercell that can form here could be significant. I mean, it's pretty favorable environment here for even the chance for some significant tornadoes as well. You got plenty of wind shear. The photograph looks pretty good. Uh, there's a pretty good elevated mix layer going on out here. Low level lap rates isn't really there, but those mid level lap rates are there. Strong downdraft cape numbers, so this is favorable for all hazards pretty much on this sounding here. So that's something we need to pay attention to. So really any supercell that forms down there, if the higher state is correct, could produce a significant tornado. But not only that, very large hail, and even for the chance for some significant, or I should say, damage winds as well. You kind of see here where some of these storms do form. They form kind of within these stronger upper level winds. So this is why I'm going to say these upper level winds are kind of key to some of these storm developments and how far they could go. And we'll probably have a better idea until we get to the event, because these models are showing different solutions here, which is not really helping forecasting. Even into Saturday evening here, it's got some decent upper level winds across parts of southern Ohio, and even western Ohio as well. If we get a sounding out there and see what it shows. Yeah, it doesn't really show. It's probably within a lot of rain and cloud cover as well. If we kind of get a little out ahead of it, that's probably a spot to look at. Not really. I'll have to look into some of these other products to get some of these good soundings here. You can't just, uh, it's like playing a game here, trying to find the best sounding from this. You actually have to look into like some of these other products like surface-based cape. So we'll take a look at that real quick here. Surface-based cape, which is another main ingredient here for severe weather. But there is going to be plenty out there. I'll definitely say that. It's going to take a while to load, of course, but I'll just say this, that for areas across parts of, let me get this pen out here, across parts of Missouri, Kansas, even to across parts of southeastern Nebraska, southern Iowa, even to parts of central and southern Illinois, even into parts of northern Oklahoma, especially on Saturday. Could be a good MCS and roll through there. Northern Arkansas may have to watch it as well, even for parts of central southern Indiana, central western Kentucky, maybe into parts of western Tennessee as well. Not sure about Ohio just yet there. But then again, there is that chance for multiple storm clusters that all might become strong to severe, especially during the day on Saturday. That's looking to be the best day for severe weather, so that's definitely we need to keep an eye on here very closely here. And I'll probably have an update on this probably tomorrow or the next day, which I'll more likely update to you guys on that later on to see if anything new pops up in the models, or if there's any major changes. I'll let you guys know about that. But anyways, guys, this is all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you already like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put it in the comment section down below. I answer you guys' questions. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.